Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at an aggro sword build. This thing seems to do quite well, I'd say, overall. Of course, it's not perfect. There definitely could be some improvements. I would love to have added another Commander Celia, but unfortunately 2 is all I've got. Otherwise, everything else is actually pretty reasonable. You could definitely slot in something else in any of the slots, really. I mean, an extra Katha is going to be quite nice as well, because that buffing would help greatly. But instead of adding extra ones of those, I did just put Council of the Card Knights. It gives me some nice Storm, Ward and Bane, which works out pretty well. And considering we normally top out at 5 with Round Table, 6 isn't a bad spot to actually have added in. So we'll get right into it and check this deck out. So first up is Shadow. Shadow has been a reasonable matchup overall for this deck, mainly because we're so aggressive that it's well before they can get Zeus out that we're usually winning, which is great. Dumping a couple cards is fine. So you really want to aim for those low cost cards or good ambushes that you can really use to just roll your opponent over very, very quickly when they do go off. And getting a turn 1 play really ups your chance of winning by a lot. So being able to get that 1-1 there was really important. So Goblin and Kunoichi Trainee, both pretty reasonable, I guess, for overall. Although Goblin's going to be a bit of a pain now. Be better if we can get a 2-drop next turn. We do decide to trade the Belinus. Not too surprising, trading that Belinus in was the best option there. Luckily we do get another Katana Unsheathed, which is only a Quick Blader, it's just the old art version, which you can't obtain anymore unfortunately, but it was a pretty cool event when it was running. So there is the trade, of course, getting maximum value out of it. Smartest thing they could do. But we did get the damage in, which is what was most important to me. And from here I can literally set up my 4-drop into 5 into 6 play, hopefully, without too much to contest me. And since we are ahead in damage, we should be able to stay ahead even with their board the way it is. Because the best they can do now is evolve. So being able to go for 5 to face this turn, 7 to face next turn, plus 2 for the evolve would be 9, so it would be really dangerous to actually leave all of this up. So definitely want to remove something.
It won't be long now.
But we can also deal 4 damage thanks to our frog, and limiting this Belinus is actually not a bad choice. Luckily it did hit in my favour. Hitting the frog of all things is great. I also would have expected it to hit the ward, which would have been okay, but if it had hit the 4-1 I would have been a little disappointed. So they went for a full buff on their board, so this is a very aggressive style of Shadow, honestly, like very, very aggressive. Going face really hard. They did leave everything up though, which definitely was the wrong choice. I mean, Council of Card Knight plus my Evo gives me lethal pretty comfortably. So really not a good idea to ever leave something up like that, because it will end up in your death, but honestly looking at it, I suppose they thought they gotta go now while they can, because my ambush is going to kill them anyway. Match 2 is against Rune. Rune, if it's dirt, can be awkward. Rune, if it's anything else, is actually a pretty easy matchup for any aggro deck, which is great. This deck's meant to do fairly well against Haven, but unfortunately I didn't actually get to fight any Haven with this deck. In 10 games I didn't actually find 1 Haven game, which is really weird. So we do get a 1-drop into a 2-drop into another 2-drop, which can be played on 3 pretty reasonably. So I'm actually okay with that. Turn 1 Rune didn't have anything, always good. We also got a good turn 3 now. Although using it or saving it's really the harder choice here. Using it I think is going to be the good option, but saving it had some potential as well. No, definitely using it now that we drew that buff. It means I can actually set up my frog and then buff it. And the Happy Pig trade I'm not too worried about at all. So Mysterian Grimoire, a bit of a risk honestly. I don't know if it's a card I'd want to play. But my Vagabond Frog, now being set up, should be able to get an Evo on that next turn. This is most likely neutral Rune, so Ginger, which this deck actually does fairly well against because Ginger again is another one of those slow Rune decks. I just don't see it that often, although it is reasonably popular now. So with the Evo plus the 4-drop, I think we're sitting in a very nice place. So we're actually able to get our Frog up to 5 attack, which is almost half of their health. With a buff next turn, we should be able to guarantee lethal as long as they don't ward us out. Being warded would be the worst nightmare for this deck. Also, Happy Pig is actually really awkward, so we need our buff to actually hit Frog twice. And that's absolutely ruining our play, because now we can't activate fanfares, because Wandering just doesn't let us do that. He blocks out all fanfare abilities, so we're not going to get a fanfare off this turn. Which means we should probably just focus on removing this.
It won't be long now.
Although I probably could have went about it a bit better.
I'll show you a secret technique.
Instead of doing it that way, I should have actually used the gold here and just evoed that instead and traded it that way. Would have been much better. But I mean, while it gave them one extra turn, I don't honestly think it's enough. And honestly, their conceding shows that. Not enough for them to survive. And our third match is another Shadow matchup. So Shadow was quite popular when I was making this video. That seems to be what the meta's like though. One day it could be one deck being popular, the next day it's another deck being popular, and so on. Of course, I still think top decks sitting around are Haven, Portal, and Sword very easily. With things starting to up and come and dropping back, I think Sword is starting to lose its edge when it comes to winning, because people are working on good counters now. Whereas I think Dragon is a really up and comer. I think it's got some potential with some of its builds. I've definitely seen some popular Dragon decks around that seem to be doing quite well for themselves. So it's pretty standard, 1 into 2 drop, into 3 drop, probably into another 3 drop, into 5. Like, the curves for this deck are very simple. And like I said, getting a 1 drop really makes a difference to your win rate. You'll notice pretty much every game here when I've had a 1 drop, I've won. So this actually improves our curve a little bit, being able to drop this on 3 and then drop down an extra bit of damage as well. I mean, Juliet into 1 drop is going to be quite good. Although this 3-2 is a little bit awkward now. I really want to play a Zeus Shadow deck. The only problem is I don't have any Sidwins and I'm really not up to crafting those right now. So we're going to get 3 damage off this. Next turn is actually looking to be pretty good. We can drop our ambush and really put them on the spot. Imperial Strix though, a little bit awkward. I mean, especially with the Evo here. Definitely going to be trading into our 2-2. Leaving up that 1-1 though could be quite dangerous for them. That is 3 damage with an Evo straight to the face, putting them at 10. We also got the 1 drop, so with an extra evolve we can get 2 damage in, so we actually have 8 damage total once you count the 1 from hand. And if you count the 3, we've actually got 11, but we'd need the 3 drop to stick around, and I don't see that happening. So they buff the 8. Getting them 8-5 is going to be fairly hard to deal with. I'm going for the trade. So really we just need anything here that's going to be good, and Council of Card Knights off the top is pretty reasonable, but I think honestly using this gold here is a little bit better just because I can deal with the 4-1 and the 5 health right there, getting rid of the 8 damage and allowing us to go for an extra 5 damage to their face this turn. It definitely isn't the best way to do things, but I think it was probably the best option I had at this time. Especially since I can save Council of Card Knights for next turn and get a nice swing turn going. Especially since they played another Cather. So it seems like Zeus and Buff Shadow are working in tandem at the moment. I mean, you wouldn't run Burial Rites unless you're running Zeus really, and you wouldn't be running Cather unless you're running some kind of Swarming Shadow that needs a lot of buffing. So that's actually really good. Card Knight gets us 1 damage. If 2 things here stick, it means we can actually use our Celia for lethal. Also, if we draw into a 3-drop or lower, we can actually use that to buff Celia as well. So we actually would only need 1 thing to stick in that case. But they did go face, so they did leave us lethal on board pretty nicely. So we are going to be able to go for 2 to face, plus Celia for an extra 2 damage.
Celebrate the beginning of the end.
We can actually go really comfortably, especially with Cather as well. We can actually buff that to 5, which put us well and truly into lethal there. So even with 1 buff, we probably would have been okay to go for lethal, even if we couldn't have attacked. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. This deck is definitely going to work pretty well, being in a highly aggressive deck. The couple of changes, like I said, I would add one more of that, and probably drop card council. But other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. You can find the deck list in the description below. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content, and I will catch you guys next time. See ya.